Dr. Omer, Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, and here we are with what is brain-to-body communication, okay? I'm hoping I'm understanding clearly what the question is. If I'm not, ask the question again in a different way and I'll try to understand exactly where you're going with this. But brain-to-body communication is starting up in the brain, and it's sending signals down through the internal capsule, down into the brain stem, down into the spinal cord, and out. That's the communication is down and out, what you're talking about. But there's also an out, up, and in communication. We call this part the sensory system. We call this part the motor system. How much of the system is the brain to body? Only 20%. Only 20% of that system is that. And like I said, from neuroscience, there's only two things that the brain does: contract muscles and secrete stuff. And you think, well, what about the digestive tract and the elimination tracts? And I said, that's a long tube of muscle, and it's got glands that secrete stuff into it. Even the digestive system. It's all about contracting muscles and secreting stuff. And say, well, what about thinking? Thinking happens on motor pathways. When you think, it's because you ignited motor pathways and you thought on those pathways. And so you use those to do that. We, like Roger Sperry, researcher at Caltech, he said, back in 1952, he said, we used to think that thinking allowed us to plan and pattern so that we could move, and he said, we know it's exactly the opposite. We move, which allows us to think. And so that's what that system is. When we look at, and we've talked about this before, when we look at what does the brain do overall, the brain is a predictor mechanism. That predictor mechanism has seen stuff and knows what the outcome is, and then they can pattern things to do because it knows what potential outcomes are, and then crunch the numbers. That predictive mechanism turned inward is your personality, and that's why personalities change in a traumatic brain injury, because we've damaged the predictor, and therefore it will have an impact on personality. Okay, so body communication, brain to body communication, motor system. Body to brain system, sensory system. And then in between all the crunching the numbers, integration, the integrators of the system. All right? Hopefully that makes things a little more clear. And if you have any other questions, please ask. And we're here when you're ready to take your life back.